about a year later, I'm looking at the money I'm bringing in and going, I'm making more money on these 2 Airbnbs after everything than my salary at this company. And I was paying myself 6 figures at the time. So I replaced that salary.
Hey everyone, I'm Annie Dickerson with Goodegg Investments, and I'm here to welcome you to a very, very special edition of the Life and Money Show, where we are recording live from REWBCON, the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference in St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm here with very special guests as well as my co-host, Susan Elliott. So we're going to start with Susan. Susan, before we reveal our special guest, tell our audience a little bit about...
Exactly. Yeah. My first time at REWBCON, and really my first time at a real estate conference of this size. I went to a pretty smaller one in the beginning when I started my journey, and I was an active investor, and I've just evolved and changed so much. But it was a pivotal event. In the beginning, I was so looking forward to this because it was like hitting a little bit of a reset, connecting with people in person, in real life, with you, Annie, in real life.
Right. We start to see each other, not just on Zoom, but, waist down.
Yeah. The pants that Annie wears, I had no idea. Jeans, right? Just like everyone else, if you can believe it. But yeah, so this is my first event. I am so impressed with this show. This venue is phenomenal. My daughter is staying with my parents outside of St. Louis where they live. So a special treat. She's only 6. So I felt like she couldn't really attend the show with me, but be able to point it out as she dropped me off at the hotel. And then it's like Candyland, this hotel. So it's been a really great event so far.
Ferris wheel, the aquarium, the ropes course. We got to check some of that stuff out. Can't be all real estate all the time. This is my 3rd year at REWBCON, and my goodness, it has grown. The first year, it was just a small, intimate group, and last year it grew, and now this is massive. It's like a full-on conference, and the caliber of the people has remained strong year over year, and the quality of the conversations, this is one of the only conferences I go to where you feel the heart and the energy of the people here. And everybody is just here to share. People are doing all sorts of different real estate, and people are always open to collaborate.
You can really feel that too. I mean, it's a big event now, but it's like very based in people and community, and there is no ego. I don't know how Dustin, setting that up, was able to manage to create that, but it for sure was from the beginning in his marketing and bringing together the types of speakers that have that authenticity about them, and just like everybody is here to share and help. It's a great vibe.
Well, speaking of people and community, we have a very special guest. We'd like to introduce you to Rachael Holland, who's sitting here with us. And Rachael, oh my goodness, you guys are going to love her. She is a longtime member of the Goodegg community. She's a mama of 5 kids.
2 sets of twins. Oh,
under 9. I can't even imagine how you do it, Rachael, but we're going to get into all of that. She's been investing in real estate. She also had a consultancy, which she sold. I was very curious to hear about that process as well. And now she and her family are enjoying the benefits of real estate and that financial freedom. And so, Rachael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here.
It is so fun to meet the Goodegg community members in person and just talk to people with great energy about themselves. So we appreciate you joining us here for your first ever podcast interview. It's going great.
My inaugural podcast. I love it.
Yeah. So tell us, Rachael, how did real estate come to be on your radar at the first time?
Great question. My mother was a real estate agent when I was a kiddo. So I remember going to open houses with her and touring the homes and helping with flyers and all of that. So I kind of grew up in that arena, which was really fun. And I remember when I was 23 years old, I was working at Starbucks as a manager, kind of rose through the ranks of barista, shift supervisor, and then a manager. And I was making $29,000 a year. And back then, that was good money. Yeah. I was salaried and, working 60 hours a week, making $29,000 a year.
Deal.
Oh, I'm going to buy my first house. But I could only afford a condo. So I remember putting in offers, and I bought my first 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo for $99,000 in Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
And it was just a few years old, so it was pretty new construction. And they said, are you going to do an inspection? I said, I don't have money for that. They go, it's $300. I go, I'm going to waive it. You guys, I had nobody that I could borrow $300 from. Even my real estate mom, she goes, oh, you'll probably be fine. So I waived the inspection because I did not have $300. Luckily, nothing was wrong. It was great. It was perfect.
You had us on a cliff there. We're like, no.
Looking back, I was just like, oh my gosh, what could I have done? I literally did not have the resources. So I went in, ended up kind of house hacking. I had my 2 younger sisters move in, charged them each $600 a month rent.
As a good big sister should do.
Exactly.
Train them.
Yeah, and I kind of did their laundry and fed them, and then they would pay basically all the mortgage. So I was house hacking before I even realized it was a thing. So that was pretty fun, living with my sister. And then 2 years later, I ended up selling it for $140,000. So I remember calling my bank before, I'm dating myself here, but you couldn't really look at the bank. So I would call US Bank and they'd be like, you have $39,554 in your account. And I would call like 5 times a day to hear
them say that.
How much money do I have in my bank account? And then I paid off, the little student loans I had. And then I rolled that into another condo. So that was kind of how my real estate adventure started, was that very first condo. And then every couple of years I would buy or sell. And so that's how my journey started. And then I was, with Starbucks for many, many years, learned a lot about P&Ls, how to hire people, how to fire people. And it really sparked an interest in me thinking, okay, I don't want to serve coffee for my entire life. What am I going to do? So tried to get into nursing school, very competitive in Portland, never got a spot. Tried to get into banking, didn't really work. So I became a nanny. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a nanny to figure out my next path, because at least I can walk a couple miles a day. I love children. So I was a nanny. Did that for about a year or so. And then I was on the playground with my little nanny kids. And I had another mom come up to me and say, how much are you making an hour? And I said, $18 an hour. She goes, I'll give you 20. I go, okay. She goes, when can you start? I said, tomorrow. So I flipped over to the other a block away over on Hawthorne, Portland.
I used to live in Portland as well. So Rachel and I have that in common.
Exactly. So then I was making $20 an hour. I just got a raise, and $2 raise in one day. Awesome. So I start nannying for this woman. About a month later, she said, Rachel, I saw how you were with my kids. She goes, you're too good to be my nanny. And I'm thinking, no one's too good to do anything. Like, no, I'll sweep floors. She goes, I want you to work for my business. And I'm like, what do you do? I saw like people with disabilities working in her basement, like boxing up shoes. And I'm like, okay, sure. She goes, starting tomorrow, you're going to be a job developer. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that is. I go home. My partner at the time, I'm like, so I got this new job that I start tomorrow, and I'm not very good with email or anything. And I was just like so scared, right? I show up the next day and she gives me 12 files. She goes, these are all people that experience disabilities. Here's their file. I want you to call them, call their parents, meet them, and go find them a job. And I'm like, I have no training. Is there any training for? Nope. Figure it out.
Just go do it.
So I call the first client, and I realized that I might have to speak with her parent because she doesn't know who I am. So I talk with her mom and I say, let's meet at Starbucks tomorrow, because I'm familiar with Starbucks, right? That's like my go-to, my third place. Exactly. Yeah. So meet him at Starbucks, and this little gal was just fantastic. And I said, where do you want to work? She's like, I love Trader Joe's. I'm like, bam. So I do her resume, and then we go to Trader Joe's the next day, and I talk with the manager, and I end up getting her a job, like real easy. And they're like, you start next week. So I'm going to work with her every day. It was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I'd go to work with her and help her because she experienced Down syndrome. So I was kind of doing half the work for her, but it was fun. I was getting to know all the people that work at Trader Joe's. And then I had a couple more clients. I'm like, well, Mark, I got another client, and he goes, sure. So a couple weeks later, I go back to my boss at the time and I go, okay, I gave her the 12 files and I go, they all have jobs. And she's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, they're working at Kroger and Target and Starbucks and Trader Joe's and everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere where I had connections, I'd be like, can you hire my client? So she was shocked that I placed all of them. And then I kind of realized, I'm kind of not so bad at this. And her and I didn't really see eye to eye as far as business goes. Something, gosh, I'm pretty good at reading a P&L. I'm decent at sales. I get these people jobs. Why don't I do this for myself? So I applied for a contract with the state of Oregon, and you're supposed to have your master's in social work. Well, I don't have a master's degree, but I applied anyway. I was like, you know what? What's it going to hurt? So I applied, and they said that, oh yeah, you don't have a master's, but gosh, you place, over 100 people in these really great jobs. So they kind of grandfathered me into this vocational rehabilitation contract. So I kind of forgot about that I even applied. And like 2 months later, I'm opening my mail and it's like Oregon State, it looked all official. So I open it and it's like, congratulations, you've been awarded, it's vendor contract. So put in my notice. They were very unhappy that I was leaving. So the next day,
because you were very good at it,
I had a knock on my front door and I open it and I was being sued. I was being served paperwork. And I'm like, what the heck? Didn't go anywhere, but kind of trying to scare me a little bit. And I was scared. I had to get a credit card and put $5,000 on it and get my lawyer. And again, never went anywhere. I didn't do anything wrong. So I started my own company, and that's kind of what we did. We were funded by Medicaid, and we help people with disabilities get jobs and help with housing and teach them how to cook and clean. And I did that for 13 years. So I started in just my bedroom. I didn't even have an office. I hired my friend Danielle. She was working at another social service agency at the time, and she was begging me to hire her. And I said, Danielle, my first month, I made $800. My second month, I made $2,000. The third month, it was like $5,000. So I called Danielle. I said, Danielle, I think I need you already. So she quit her social work job, came to work for me in my bedroom. We're sitting on my bed with our laptops, cold calling like doggy daycares. Like, are you hiring? I have this great person that can wash your dogs. And I remember Danielle hated the cold calls. So one day she called me. I was out in the community, and she goes, Rachel, I see a big pile of gravel in your driveway. I'm wondering if I could, scoop that instead of doing cold calls today. And I'm like, yes, please. I don't want to do the gravel. So she did all my gravel, and then I did the cold calls. We were just laughing. We're still friends to this day. She
you got to find what you're good at, what you love to do.
Exactly. So I grew that company for 13 years. And then my wife got pregnant with our fifth kiddo. And I was like, still working 70 hours a week.
Hold on. What happened to 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Oh, yeah.
So were those along the way?
Those were along the way. I had the first set of twins. They're 9 years old.
Yes. Okay.
And then my wife had the second set of twins, who are now 5 years old. And then in between there, right after COVID, we had a beach house. So we were kind of like, for COVID, we lived at our beach house in Oregon, on the Oregon coast. It was so lovely because we could homeschool the kids. And I was like meeting all the neighbors. And these friends of ours had this great house that was like not oceanfront, but it was like 5 back from the ocean. Big, huge 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. They were moving back to Texas. And I was like, guys, are you going to sell your house? They're like, well, we might sell it, or we might do Airbnb. And I'm thinking, y'all are going to be in Texas. You don't want to run an Airbnb from there. You know how hard that would be? Because I'm thinking, I want to buy that house.
You're like, I could do that. Oh, yeah.
So we had dinner, and I talked him into letting us buy the house without a realtor, because I'm thinking, that's going to save you 6%. We can split that. So I did the purchase and sale agreement on my own, which I'd never done, saved the realtor fees. They ended up selling us the house. It went so quick because there wasn't a lot of paperwork involved, So we bought that house. They left it fully furnished because they were going to Texas. They didn't need anything. So I went in there and I was like, I'm going to have this ready in 1 month. Got rid of half the stuff, kept half the stuff. So that was our first Airbnb. So started doing that. So fun. And then a friend of mine tagged me in another post, this adorable little A-frame that was for sale. It was about a year later. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm ready. And I just kept seeing the price go down, down, down. So finally I met the realtor at an open house, and I was like, I don't need my own realtor. What if you sell it to me, and we could split that 3% commission, because I don't need representation. I bought and sold so many houses. She said, deal. I can get this owner to take this much. So bought that house, got that ready, totally gutted it, made it just beautiful. Susan, you got to come down with your kids sometime. Oh my gosh.
I was talking to Rachel about how we just love having 1 or 2 short-term rentals. I don't think I want a fleet of them, but to just give someone that experience that you want when you go somewhere. And I didn't get a chance to ask you, but do you put anything in there to like make it a little kid-friendly?
Absolutely.
Because you're a mom, you know it. Please give me 1 plastic cup at Airbnbs. They're all glass. Are you kidding me? How are my children going, my tiny children, going to drink?
We do, all the plastic cups, silverware, sippy cups. We do diaper changing stations with the little diaper, I forget they're called, that keeps the diaper in there.
Oh,
the diaper genie with extra refills, children's Tylenol. I mean, everything. We go above and beyond to cater to people with children. Every single parent that stays there is like, oh my gosh, I didn't have to bring a high chair, a stroller, a baby gate. Like every single thing your kid's going to need, we have it. So anyways, so we open up the 2 Airbnbs at the beach. About a year later, I'm looking at the money I'm bringing in and going, holy crap, I'm making more money on these 2 Airbnbs after everything than my salary at this company. And I was paying myself 6 figures at the time. So I replaced that salary. And I was thinking, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing both, 80 hours a week. My wife got pregnant with our 5th kid. I had heard that a friend of mine who was in kind of the same industry as me had recently sold his business. His name is David. And I was like, David sold his company? I called David. I texted him actually. I said, David, Rachel from our group, can I chat with you? I heard you sold your business. He's like, I'd love to. Let's chat tomorrow at 10 a.m. Talking to David. He's like, yeah, I sold my company for millions of dollars. And I'm like, are you serious? How much could I sell my company for? And I kind of gave him my numbers, and he goes, you could probably get between this much and this much. And I'm like, shut the front door. I had just never thought, we work with people with disabilities and it's Medicaid and it's contracts and it's relationships. I'm like, we don't have inventory.
Yeah.
How could I sell this? So the moment he gave me that number, I was like, wow. So I started calling different brokers, local, down in California, going, how much could I get? And they're saying the exact same numbers as David had told me. And I'm like, wow, this guy knows his stuff. So David's like, maybe I'll buy your business. And that didn't work out. But I ended up listing my business for sale, this company outside San Francisco. And within 7 days, we had like 8 full price offers on my company. So I got to interview all these people and pick the person that I wanted to carry on my legacy. And to this day, this is about a year ago, Tom is the most wonderful person. He's like 70% owner, and then the other 30% is like a larger company. We're friends. So the business sale, it went off without a hitch. It took like 3 months. It was a lot of work, not gonna lie. Way more work than an audit, yearly audits and everything, but it was awesome. So ended up selling the company and became financially free.
Wow.
I think what strikes me about your journey is, you tell me if this is true, but it seems like the words "I can't" are not part of your vocabulary. Even back at the very beginning, when you didn't have the $300, you could have just said, well, I guess I don't have this. Other people do an inspection. I guess I can't go this path. I guess I can't do this. But you decided, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to try this. And you went down that path. And then later when you're starting your business, or when you were given that transitioning from nanny with no training into this business, and you thought, look, I can figure this out. And you did really well at that. And then you started the business and you thought, yeah, I can kind of figure this out. All along the way, they say it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. And I think your story is such a shining example of that, of everywhere along the way, when you hit up against something where most people would say, ooh, I don't have experience, I don't have the credentials, I can't do this. You were like, who cares? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to figure out a way. And look what that's brought you. I think it's such an inspiration.
Thank you so much. Grew up not having a lot of money. Salvation Army cheese, free and reduced lunches at school. I remember, they don't do this now, thankfully, in a school, but back when I went to elementary school, you'd either have a green school lunch ticket or a yellow school lunch ticket. And if you had a green one, that means you're low income and you got like free or reduced lunch. I mean, isn't that horrible that they used to single kids out like that? Oh my God, it was horrible. So I was always so embarrassed, because I got free and reduced lunch. My parents didn't make a lot of money because my parents never graduated high school really, or went to college, so yeah, it's kind of first generation wealth. And I didn't have the college degrees to back it up. For a long time, I felt really insecure. I had guilt and shame about not getting a college degree. But when I sold that business for millions of dollars, I thought, you know what? I'm kind of glad I didn't have student loans. My wife still has student loans and she's like, gosh, dang it. I can't believe you did this. And
and also I'm hearing this just general attitude and really frankly aura about you. The listeners can't sit here next to you, of just being open to something that was totally off your radar before then. And I think a lot of people, when they're hit with something that's beyond their scope of awareness in their current life, from the way you grew up, even to purchase your first home, even to work as a nanny, you had never done that before. You're just kind of got this attitude yeah, I could try that.
Yeah, I can try that if I fail.
Yeah. And it's amazing to hear a story of where that can actually lead you to. Because I think we all get caught up in the moment of I think that just happened to me. I'm at this next step now, but am I really going to make these big goals? And so to hear someone's story that they're just following this true path to themselves, exploring different tangents and ways, and just doing it in an authentic way of, I'm learning and this feels like a good path and I'm helping people, and it can lead you to amazing places.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, Rachel, because I'm sure your friends and family have been along for the journey and they've heard about your success. But I've been in this place where I've tried to share with people, oh, well, I'll teach you how to do it too. But they're like, oh, but I don't want it to work. I just want the end result. What do you think it is that holds people back versus somebody like you who just goes after it? I mean, what do you think it is that some people, they get stuck and they can't move forward? And what advice would you give them?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's fear. People are scared of the unknown. And I still have fear about things. One thing I've taken away from this conference here is that Because I can say it's fear, fear. Guess what? I still have a little bit of fear too. Just the other day, my wife said, when are we going to buy another Airbnb? And I said, we just bought one a year ago in Palm Springs. Now we have 3. Like, I don't know that I want another one. She's like, well, isn't this your full-time job? I was like, well, yeah, but I don't know that I want all that stress. So, why? It's fear. I'm scared that I'm going to get so busy again that I'm not going to have time to be a soccer mom. And I love being a soccer mom. I mean, I'm just like driving around in my minivan with my 5 kids. My wife went back to school as a Montessori teacher. So our roles kind of flipped in the last year. Then I was listening to Jean Chatsky, as you guys know very well, her podcast. And guess who was on there? Annie, talking about Goodegg investments and syndications. And I'm thinking, syndications? I know about TV syndications, but what are you talking about? Syndications? So I'm like pausing it, getting out my notebook and like taking notes, going, okay, I need to check this out because I just sold the business. And I had like this, for once in my life, this big, huge pot of cash. I'm like, what are we going to do? So that's how I found you guys and the real estate syndications. I set up a call with Jason and, just started investing with you guys. And right away, I was like, oh my gosh, this is truly passive. So what did I do? Called up my realtor, started selling all my long-term rentals. I'm like, I do not want to deal with the toilets, the termites, the tenants. I am so over this. So every year we've been kind of selling a couple of those. And then my K1 that I get from you guys, I'm paying no taxes on my capital gains because I have these paper losses. So it's like, I just feel like I got so lucky to find you guys and this alternative method to investing.
Well, I think you purely manifested that luck around you. I mean, and you say the word luck and I'm like, oh, that wasn't luck. This was just meant to happen. But maybe that's your just definition of luck. It's like, this is just how you can show up in the world. And
maybe it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, one more question before we move on to the Life and Money Show Spotlight round is I'm curious, with your 5 kids and the place where you are now in your life and with this wealth that you've built for yourself and your family, your kids are going to have a very different upbringing than you did. So what do you want them to know, or what are you teaching them to set them up for success?
That is the $1 million question. That's awesome. My wife, my amazing wife, we talk about this all the time because she grew up in the projects in Boston. She was the only white kid in her neighborhood. She had cockroaches crawling around on the floors, So we both literally came from nothing. And now, we have a paid off mortgage in a beautiful neighborhood and our kids have 529s. They already have a lot more than we did. And we were older parents too. So even our friends, a lot of them don't have kids. So they're buying my kids stuff. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, they just have too much stuff. So we try to limit gifts and presents and stuff like that. But we're really teaching our kids the value of $1, of giving them an allowance that they have to earn. And some of that includes getting up every day at 7 a.m. with their alarm, brushing their teeth, getting dressed. If they don't, I deduct $1. It's $1 a day, $5. If you're not brushing your teeth, minus $1. And they really like their money every Friday, their cash. So it's that when they get gifts of money, I'm teaching them how to pick stocks in the stock market. And we're buying little shares off of Vanguard. We have Audrey and Olive. They're my 9-year-olds, right? They each had $500. It was a couple of different gifts from their birthday, from their 8th birthday. Well, Olive put her $500 in Walmart stock. Audrey put her $500 in Target stock. Well, last week, Audrey had $293 and Olive has almost $800.
wow.
So they're already seeing Olive's going, I've already made $300 off of my $500. Audrey's crying, I thought Target was a good pick. So we sold the Target and then she bought Disney just 2 days ago. So I'm hoping that Disney, so it's kind of fun for them to see, already they're picking stocks, and they're 9 years old. But a funny story. So if you live in the Pacific Northwest, there's this really great burger chain called Burgerville.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar.
So friggin' delicious. So a couple weeks ago, Audrey goes, Mama, can we go have Burgerville tonight? And I'm like, oh, honey, no, it is not in the budget. Because we still have to have a budget or, we'll be broke. And I said, Audrey, it's not in the budget tonight, honey, She goes, well, can't you just sell some stocks? I was like, no, we don't sell stocks. We keep them. But it was just funny. It's
do you want to
wow.
sell your stocks, Audrey?
Exactly. Yeah. I love that they can talk about, and then we're talking about getting another rental property. And then Audrey goes, are we going to do a 15 or a 30-year mortgage? And I'm like, how do you know about that? She goes, Susie Orman podcast.
Oh.
I listen to all the podcasts in the car and they're on their iPads, on road trips. I'm thinking they're not listening. Guess what? All those kids are listening. They know your voice, Annie. They know your voice. They know Jean Chatsky. They know Susie Orman. They know Susie Orman's wife, KT. They go, is that KT? I'm like, yeah. So am I brainwashing my children? Maybe a little bit. But yeah, they're going to have a very different life no matter what. And I really try to teach them to be respectful too. I take my kids into 7-Eleven to buy a Slurpee like once a month. Every child says thank you to that cashier when they walk out the door. And the cashiers usually are like, whoa, kids don't ever say thank you. I'm like, my kids do. And my kids hold the door for people when we go to swimming lessons. If there's anyone behind them, they know to scoot over and to open the door. So I think it's just those little things that you teach your kids. They're going to be contributing members of society. They're going to be respectful. Hopefully, I pray to God that my kids are going to be the kid that if another kid's getting bullied at school, they're going to go up to him and be like, let me be your friend.
Yeah.
Let me be that one person that is going to be in your corner and have your back.
Yeah.
So.
And frankly, that kindness, that compassion, that consideration, there's no amount of money it's just priceless. And that's what's going to take these kids for the next generation. That's what's going to set them apart and take them really far in life. And I love that they're talking about stocks and mortgages at such a young age. How cool. And how cool that they're able to make some of those decisions and mistakes while they're living at home. And they get to do it with a little bit of money here and there, but they feel the ramifications so that when they go out into the world, they have that experience. And now they're not doing it with $500, they're doing it with $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. They're building it on the mistakes that they've already learned through, navigated through. And so what a special, special gift. All right, Rachel, with that, we are going to move into the final segment of our show, the Life and Money Show Spotlight Round. We're going to ask you 3 questions we ask all our guests.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. All right, the first question is about your life and money. So share with us one thing you're doing to live a meaningful and intentional life I design.
Being present, trying to stay in the moment, trying to put my phone down. Not all the time, but many times throughout the day, because I just realized the other day, my little 18-month-old, he grabs something like a remote control and it's like going like this and putting it to his ear like a phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, how does he already know that? Because he sees me on my phone all the time. So that is one of my goals, is to put the phone down and just to really be present with those kids, because every day they grow up. And sometimes the days are so long, but the weeks and the months and the years that just fly by.
Yeah. And you're right. They watch us. I remember in the early days of building the business, I would be reading my kids a book at night, but my mind wasn't there. I was thinking about the business and other ideas. And, now I'm able to bring more presence, but it's been a process. It is not easy.
Definitely.
All about investing that time and that energy and that presence in your kids, and they'll return it tenfold. Okay, second question is about others' life and money. So share with us one life or money hack, a tip, a resource, a book, anything that's really helped you on your journey that you think will help others as well.
Ooh, 2 books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, the Bible.
And it's such an easy read.
Yes.
I remember I read it when I was like 20 years old when I was out camping.
Yeah.
And I really think that helped with buying that first condo when I was 23 years old, thinking, do I want to be in this rat race?
Yeah.
And then I tried to talk all my friends into buying condos when they were 23, because guess what? Some of them were making more money than I was. And I had one of them recently come to me and go, gosh, dang it, Rachel. I really wish I would have listened to you, because she's been paying rent for 25 years at the same apartment. She goes, I could have owned this apartment. I'm like, I tried it, Amy. What else am I going to do?
It probably also opened you up to having a business, so that when that opportunity came upon you, you're like, oh, this is just part of the book.
Exactly. So that book, and I don't even know how I think I got it at the Goodwill for 50 cents. I'm like, oh, that looks good, And then another book that I love, and you guys are probably familiar with this, Simple Path to Wealth, J.L. Collins. And his voice is amazing. So the audiobook of Simple Path to Wealth, it's just, it's so good. I've listened to it so many times.
And I love how you've turned when you have kids, you're always carpooling somewhere. You're dropping this one up, picking that one up. Yep. So I love how you've turned your minivan into a mobile university. And so I have a coach who calls it net time, no extra time. and for learning. Because you're going somewhere anyway, you might as well spend that time learning something new. And so I so much like that.
This joke that during COVID, she goes, I think you got a master's degree in finance. Because I had so much time all of a sudden that I just started reading every book and investing in the stock market. And she's like, you literally got freaking master's. And I'm like, I kind of did.
All right. Final question is about life and money in the world. So share with us one thing that you're doing to help make the world a better place, whatever that means to you.
Composting, recycling, teaching our kids to be respectful of the earth. They are so interested in the ocean and all of the plastic, and just really teaching them that, if you guys want a world and you want to be able to snorkel when you're my age with your kids, we really have to cut down on plastics and just what we buy, what we consume, and what we do. And they're already aware of that, which is really cool.
All right. Well, Rachael, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, your story is such an inspiration, and I know people are going to want to follow up and learn more about all that you're doing, be along for your journey and whatever happens next. So share with people, if they did want to connect with you, what's the best place that they can go?
Awesome. Instagram. So it's Rachael, it's RachaelM Holland. So find me on Insta. I would love it if you followed me and share our journeys and see all my cute little 5 little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids.
What are all their names?
So we have Audrey, Olive, Hazel, Hudson, and Phineas.
And some spectacularly beautiful photos of all the Airbnbs you decorate and design. They are experiences. It looks like I can't wait to stay at one.
Thank you so much.
I'm missing out. I'm going to go follow you right now.
Yes, please.
Rachael, thank you so much for being here with us and our listeners today. And thank you for being here at this conference. So good to meet you in person. And actually, I think this is the first podcast we recorded live. So this is a special, very special thing. And so we're very grateful that you could be here with us.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.